Forward, march! Please be quiet. March in place. Oh. Right face. Left face. Post colors. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation.
Let us come reverently in the presence of our God. Heavenly Father, author of the universe, Prince of Peace, please send your holy comforter into the hearts of all present here who mourn and commemorate today, and to the brave ones who gave their lives here, just as your Son, our Savior Jesus Christ, promised after his ascension 2,000 years ago. We ask this comfort in the presence of these patriot souls here buried 241 years ago, as our beloved America fought for its independence and freedom from tyranny. We especially ask that your love shine upon those brave Virginia regiments of infantry and company of artillery who tried to surrender, only to be massacred by Lieutenant Colonel Tarleton and his men. This infamy, Lord, you rewarded by energizing and blessing those who kept hope alive in South Carolina and throughout the American colonies. We thank you for the leadership of General George Washington, General Nathaniel Greene, and General Francis Marion, among others, as they overcame insuperable odds and trusted in Providence that victory would come, as it did in Yorktown. We thank you, Lord, for your many blessings, for those family members here today whose patriot fathers fought and died on this battlefield, and for all who share in this and participate in this program, and for those who witness. Lord, we especially ask thy blessing on all of those who are serving in the armed services, who are in harm's way as we speak. Bless all those who have served our country at war and in peace, and especially those brave patriots we honor today. We ask thy very special blessing for all the fallen in all of America's wars, who gave the last full measure of devotion for their country and their families. Amen.
Amen. Come on, right, hey. Forward, march.
Testing.
Please be seated. I welcome you all on this beautiful Carolina morning. I think this is the coolest morning we've ever had since I've been doing this for 17 years. And I appreciate it with this uniform on, and I'm sure the rest of you do as well. And I welcome you back to the 241st anniversary of the slaughter of Virginia patriots attempting to surrender here at Buford's Massacre at the hands of British Colonel Tarleton we assemble to remember on this Memorial Day weekend as we have the past 17 years. So many improvements have been made to this gravesite by the friends of Buford's Massacre since the first Sons of the American Revolution's commemoration of this gravesite. And as you look around, you can see those improvements. Additionally, the American Battlefield Trust has purchased acreage across the road where the actual battle took place. All this was done because the SAR followed Emily Carn Franklin's example of keeping the faith for these 113 patriots. Today we have a few speakers who will recall that infamous battle. They have come from all over the Southeast and beyond. I want to begin by thanking compatriot Dan Woodruff. He has faithfully been our color guard commander all these years. Thank you, Dan. I'd also thank Miriam Lovett. She has come religiously over all these years and has usually brought some young person to learn of this event, and I thank you. Our first presenter is compatriot Stephen Smith, a Navy veteran who is president of the South Carolina Society, Sons of the American Revolution. President Smith. Surprise. Here you go, sir.
Thank you. Now that I know all of Greg's bacteria have been destroyed, I feel comfortable speaking. It's David Smith, by the way. Steve is actually my younger brother, but that's okay. What's between Smiths, it doesn't really matter, does it? Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking this opportunity to remember the sacrifices made by our patriot forefathers for the success of liberty and the defeat of tyranny, to commemorate what happened here 241 years ago. This morning, we're at the southern border of that part of South Carolina, once home to the Waxhaw Indians in colonial times. If you lived here, you lived in the Waxhaws. Let's go back in time to 4 years after America declared independence from England and King George. The year 1780, and Sir Henry Clinton, a British general who was second in command of all British forces in America, was in the process of taking the city of Charlestown, South Carolina, from Patriot General Benjamin Lincoln. At the same time, marching south from Virginia to Charlestown to help reinforce General Lincoln was Patriot Colonel Abraham Buford and 380 Virginians. When Buford and his men reached the Santee River between Charlestown and Georgetown, Buford was told that Charlestown had fallen, and he was ordered to turn around and start marching north towards Hillsborough, North Carolina. While Colonel Buford and his men were making their way north, Sir Clinton, who had just taken Charlestown, realized that the summer in coastal South Carolina was hot, wet, and had lots of biting insects. Sir Clinton decided to go back to the comfort of his British headquarters in New York, and he gave military command of Charlestown to his second in command, the Marquis Charles Cornwallis. Lord Cornwallis soon learned that a large Patriot detachment had left the Charlestown area several days before and were headed north. While he didn't think it possible to catch the Patriots, Cornwallis ordered one of his young officers, a 25-year-old from Liverpool, England, to take his men on horseback and go after Colonel Buford. On May the 29th, 1780, after a march of 105 miles in only 54 hours, British Lieutenant Colonel Bannister Tarleton and his 270 men, riding horses, caught up to the 380 so patriots from Virginia. In the early afternoon, Tarleton offered Colonel Buford terms of surrender. These were the same terms that Patriot General Lincoln had accepted when he surrendered Charlestown to the British. Tarleton would even allow the Patriot officers to be immediately paroled and go back to their homes, taking their guns and personal baggage with them. Colonel Buford's men were tired. He reported that the roads were difficult to travel due to heavy rains, and that his men and horses were, quote, greatly reduced by long marches, end quote. But 32-year-old Buford refused Tarleton's offer, writing, "Sir, I reject your proposals and shall defend myself to the last extremity." At about 3 o'clock that afternoon, Buford ordered his men to form a straight line, facing Tarleton's cavalry and infantry on horseback. He told his men not to fire until the enemy was 10 yards away. That's the distance from me to you. Tarleton charged. With galloping horses carrying men waving cavalry swords and infantry holding rifles with long bayonets attached, the Patriots fired just as Tarleton's horses crashed through their ranks. They were nearly helpless as they were bayoneted and slashed by Tarleton's men. Buford was on his horse some distance away, and he saw what was happening to his men. He ordered a flag of surrender be taken to Tarleton, which would cause a truce, a ceasefire. Tarleton's men saw the flag and knew that a truce was being requested. At this point, historians and stories differ. Colonel Buford reported that even under a Patriot flag of truce, with the Virginians laying down their arms, trying to surrender, Tarleton's men only became more murderous. He reported that his men were stabbed, slashed, and hacked. Mounted cavalry soldiers struck their swords into the right shoulder of Patriot riflemen, making them unable to use their weapon. Many raised their hands in surrender, only to have a hand severed by a blow from a British sword. Many of those wounded were bayoneted through their chest and stomach, some as many as 17 times, and left to die. What kind of man could possibly do such a thing? Tarleton's men were fellow colonists who remained loyal to King George. Men from New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Southern volunteers as well. They considered themselves British, but most had never left America. They were in a brutal war against their neighbors. When the very short battle was over, Tarleton found he had lost 37 horses and 5 men. 12 to 14 men had been wounded. Buford reported 203 of his men had been captured. That included 150 men who were too badly wounded to flee. The 3rd Virginia Detachment, under Colonel Buford, also reported that 113 men had been killed. Those 113 men who were killed here in the wax halls of South Carolina 241 years ago were killed by neighbors loyal to a different form of government, neighbors willing to accept tyranny. Most of those 113 men are buried here in a mass grave enclosed by an iron fence. On behalf of the South Carolina Society Sons of the American Revolution, I want to recognize the outstanding efforts of the General Francis Marion chapter in hosting this event, and the organization Friends of Buford's Massacre for their dedication in maintaining this site of great patriot sacrifice. Welcome to this year's commemoration. Thank you.
Thank you, President David Smith. Now, our next speaker is from the state of Virginia, compatriot Jeff Thomas, president of the Virginia Society, Sons of the American Revolution.
Good morning. I want to take you on a bit of a journey this morning, but before I do that, I want to recognize my father, Dane Thomas, that has joined with me this morning. My dad and I have been on this journey together. We joined the SAR together, and this weekend is actually the first weekend I've been able to see him since I was elected president earlier this year. He lives here in South Carolina. So I want to just ask him if he will come up for just a moment. And as I mentioned, this is the first time I've seen him since being elected Virginia Society president. And I wanted to officially present him with my Virginia SAR Presidential Challenge coin. Thank you, Dad. So our journey to South Carolina for this special ceremony began 6 weeks ago in Culpeper County, Virginia on Patriots Day. It is a tale of two patriots with similar trajectories, both sons of Culpeper County. It is a story of Colonel Abraham Buford and General Edward Stevens. Both were born in Culpeper within 2 years of each other. Both began their service together in the Culpeper Minutemen, taking part in the Battle of Great Bridge in 1775 and serving for the duration of the war. Both experienced disastrous battles in South Carolina in 1780 within 3 months of each other. Colonel Buford, obviously here at this location in May of 1780, and General Stevens at the Battle of Camden in August of 1780. Both narrowly escaped capture at the hands of Tarleton and his forces, Buford escaping by horseback with some of his men from the massacre here, and Stevens escaping Tarleton's raid on Charlottesville, Virginia in June of 1781, where he was recuperating from his wounds from the Battle of Guilford Courthouse. On April the 17th, the Virginia SAR marked the grave of General Edward Stevens with a granite SAR Patriot marker at Culpeper Masonic Cemetery on land he had donated. The soul that was removed from his gravesite filled the urn with the Virginia soul that traveled with us to this ceremony today. This soul was blessed during a ceremony at Stevens' gravesite led by the Reverend Henry Minnick, chaplain of the Thomas Jefferson chapter. And as you know, Thomas Jefferson was governor of Virginia in 1780 at the time of Buford's massacre. Both Stevens and Buford served under Patrick Henry, who was commander of the Virginia forces in 1775 and 76, before he was elected the wartime governor of Virginia from 1776 to 1779. Our urn of blessed Virginia soul traveled with us yesterday to Patrick Henry's Red Hill, his final home and resting place, where we commemorated the 285th anniversary of Patrick Henry's birth. During the wreath ceremony, we paid our respects and we spread some of the blessed Virginia soul at Patrick Henry's gravesite. After their service in the Culpeper Minutemen, both Stevens and Buford joined the Virginia Continental line, taking part in the Philadelphia campaign, the battles of Germantown and Brandywine. Stevens was a colonel in the 10th Virginia Regiment during the campaign, and Buford became colonel of the 11th Virginia Regiment prior to Monmouth. Stevens became a brigadier general of Virginia militia in 1779, while Buford was placed in command of the 3rd Virginia Detachment of the 2nd Virginia Brigade. And as you've heard compatriot Smith so eloquently describe, we all know what happened. Buford's detachment of men were sent south to reinforce Charleston during the British siege, but before he could arrive, the city was surrendered after a 2-month siege there, and Buford was ordered to Camden to resupply and continue on to North Carolina. Cornwallis sent a detachment of 270 mounted cavalry and infantry under Tarleton to overtake them, which occurred right here. Buford's forces were quickly overrun by Tarleton's mounted troops and brutally slain after attempting to surrender. We have this solemn monument and mass grave here that testifies to that senseless loss of Virginia life. Charles Stedman, a British historian, wrote in 1794 words that were captured on the monument here, that the virtue of humanity was totally forgotten. Tarleton wrote Cornwallis immediately after the battle, stating that he had cut 170 officers and men to pieces, earning the moniker Bloody Tarleton. The true significance of the massacre is the intense hatred of the British presence in South Carolina that it fosters, and the cause it incited to give the enemy Tarleton's quarter, meaning no mercy. Those cries were heard at Kings Mountain in October of 1780 and at Cowpens in January 1781, where Tarleton's forces were routed. General Edward Stevens' first major action as Brigadier General of the Virginia Militia occurred only months after Buford's massacre at the Battle of Camden in August of 1780. By all accounts, it did not go well, and it was Stevens in the Council of War before the battle who said, "It is too late to retreat now. We must fight." Stevens offered to resign after that conflict, but Nathaniel Greene convinced him to continue in service. He took part in Greene's race to the Dan in early 1781 and commanded his troops in the Battle of Guilford Courthouse in March, where he was wounded in the thigh. There is a monument to Stevens at Guilford Courthouse National Military Park with a dedication that reads, "On this spot, Brigadier General Edward Stevens was wounded while making a gallant stand with his Virginia troops." On our journey here yesterday, we stopped at this monument, paid our respects, and spread some of the blessed Virginia soil from Stevens' gravesite. After his escape from Tarleton here, Colonel Abraham Buford remained in service as a Continental Army officer until the siege of Yorktown, but never again obtained a field command. After his escape from Tarleton at Charlottesville, General Edward Stevens returned to the battlefield to lead a brigade of 750 men at the siege of Yorktown in October of 1781. After the war, Buford became a member of the Society of Cincinnati in Virginia before receiving a military land grant of over 8,000 acres in Kentucky, where he moved and helped found the state's horse racing industry. He died in Scott County, Kentucky in 1833. After the war, Stevens rose to become Major General of the Virginia Militia and returned to his native Culpeper County, where he became a Virginia State Senator and died in 1820. The epitaph on his grave reads, "This gallant officer and upright man served his country with a reputation in the field and Senate of his native state. He took an active part and had a principal share in the War of the Revolution and acquired great distinction. He was zealous in the cause of American freedom. In strictly his integrity, honest patriotism, and immovable courage, he was surpassed by only one and had few equals." Our journey ends here today as we solemnly spread the remaining blessed Virginia soul on this mass grave of Virginia soldiers who also demonstrated immovable courage in the face of a merciless foe.
Thank you, President Thomas. I'm now going to introduce my very good friend from North Carolina, who is filling in for the President of the state of North Carolina on very short notice, Dr. Sam Powell.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. It's indeed a pleasure to be here again this year. I am here and on behalf of the state of North Carolina, I'd like to bring greetings from our President, Jay DeLoach, who has just taken office in the last month, and our 1,300 and growing society. And I wanted to take this opportunity to give you compliments on the wonderful improvements that have been made here since the last time I was here, with the sidewalks and the flags and all of the things that have been done. It really is looking good. So congratulations on that. I'd like to also mention that my family is from Southside Virginia, and we had several cousins who had moved in the area east of the James River, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they weren't involved with this or some of their close friends. So it gives me the feeling, you know, each year when I like to come down here to be involved with that, because I feel like I may have a close tie. I haven't done that research yet, but I feel like that's very possible. And this battle made such a difference in the war. You know, the American Revolution was largely a war of attrition. So having the count of men in the field was extremely important, and the British found that when they came south, the promise that they had been told that there was a ready army of loyalists here that would join their ranks if they showed up didn't occur. And this battle that was here, the savagery of the men that were killed, you know, it was one thing to have a battle and have people die. That happened. People expected that. But there were bodies here with, as was said earlier, 17 wounds from bayonets. 17. That's that type of savagery. And that, when these people were trying to throw up the flag of surrender and to be cut down, you know, the word of that spread like no other battle that I can think of during the American Revolution here. The cry of Buford's Massacre stopped enlistments for the British, or helped slow those down, and it speeded up the recruitment for the Patriot forces. So this battle, you know, it had effect right here with the men that were involved, but that effect was a lasting effect that went through to help us very much in this war of attrition that we had to be involved with. So I think it's today very fitting that we come here on the anniversary and remember these men who gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we could live in a free world today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Now, our next speaker recently hails from South Carolina, and it's my pleasure to introduce compatriot Brooks Lyles, who is the I understand, the past Vice President General of the International Society, but he is also the chair of the Education Committee, which is a very important committee on the National Society's level. Excuse me just a moment. Sir.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here today to present greetings on behalf of the International Society. Everybody knows about all the different state societies we have, but the SAR has an international society with 47 members who live in countries across the entire world. We have members in England, Australia, Ireland, the Philippines, Taiwan, and a variety of other locations. So I'm their representative here today. And there's one other thing I would like to say about this. Thanks to Greg for the nice introduction. I'm a native Virginian. I relocated here from Kansas, where we retired from the Army and lived 20 years. So we're now in the new acquisition territories just south of Charlotte, just across the border. This action, the actions along the frontier, the backcountry, the civil war between the Tories and the Loyalists, and the actions and arrogance of the British as they worked through this area, and particularly with the actions here at Buford's Massacre and the Waxhaws, and the way they treated the local inhabitants, and particularly one young man by the name of Andrew Jackson, who lived here in the area. Little did they know when that arrogant officer slashed him across the head with his saber when he refused to polish his boots, that he instilled a deep, deep hatred of the English that was going to come back to haunt them in the War of 1812 at the Battle of New Orleans. So there is a linkage from the activities here on the day of this battle that carried on for a long, long time, and to the benefit of the United States of America. Thank you all very much for coming here today.
Thank you, Brooks. Our next speaker to bring greetings is Miss Libby Billum, Regent of the South Carolina Society, Daughters of the American Revolution. Is she here? I didn't see her earlier. Okay. We will then move to Mr. Gabe Bobo, who is the second Vice President of the National Society, Children of the American Revolution.
Good morning. My name is Gabe Bobo, and I am the National Second Vice President for the National Society Children of the American Revolution. On behalf of National President Jacob Schattinger, I'm honored to bring greetings to you from the National Society. We are the oldest patriotic youth organization in the country and honor the memories of those that served in the American Revolution. On this day, exactly 241 years ago, Colonel Abraham Buford's Virginia Continentals participated in a bloody, fierce engagement against Banisher Tarleton and his British Legion. Tarleton's violent reputation from Buford's massacre stroked the flames, which resulted in the Scotch-Irish people and the Waxhaws and other neutral people in the South to become zealous supporters of the American Revolution. Today we honor the courageous patriots that fought at this location, resulting in over 200 wounded and over 100 killed, of which many are buried in the mass grave. Thank you.
Our next person to bring greetings is Jay Bobo, State President of the South Carolina Society, Children of the American Revolution.
Hello everyone, it is my pleasure to bring greetings today on behalf of the South Carolina Society, Children of the American Revolution. Consistent with SCCAR's theme this year, Finding Fields of Freedom, it is important that everyone tell and remember what happened here on May 29th, 1780, at this very spot. The Patriots at this battle, under the command of Abraham Buford, were slaughtered by Banastre Tarleton and his British cavalry. Several significant things came from this battle. Tarleton was given the nickname Bloody Band, one he would carry for the rest of the Revolution. The battle became a cornerstone for rallying cries such as Tarleton's Quarter and Remember Buford. This battle was very important to the Southern campaign. Thank you for the privilege of remembering the Battle of the Waxhaws, which was a field of freedom on May 29th, 1780. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Ken Obrien, a Navy veteran who he and his men who are very responsible for the many improvements done to this gravesite. I'll take that.
And I'm always picking things up.
Thank you, Greg. First off, I want to welcome everybody on this beautiful day. It's been 2 years since we held this ceremony, and you know, I think back when this battle occurred, and you've heard the stories, so I'm not going to go into all that, but I want to tell you how quickly it was forgotten. This mass grave and the battle in the South, which took place here, which actually led to the victories in the Revolution, was forgotten. It wasn't until 1860, when the obelisk was first put up, that there was any memorial put in place, okay, to remember the dead here and what happened here. And except for the few locals, it was forgotten. Now, I want you to fast forward a little bit, and if it wasn't for groups like the SAR and the DAR, who kept the memories alive, that kept that little spark alive, to see what it is today. Okay, we brought this battle to the forefront again of our memories, and educating the new generation, this next generation, on what took place here. When we first found this battlefield 10, 11 years ago, you can't imagine how neglected it was, okay? And that's where, if you read the story about Miss Emily, Emily Franklin Carnes, whose great-great-grandfather helped dig the grave site here, who was impressed by the British to dig that grave that contained the bodies of 84 Continental soldiers. And it was through that family lore, that family connection, that she almost individually, one person, maintained this battleground. And as a veteran, coming upon this, and there were several of us in the group, I don't know if you've heard this story. If you have, here it is again. We came upon this battlefield riding our motorcycles, and there were several of us who were veterans. And we looked upon what happened here, and what we felt was a sacrilege. In fact, there wasn't even an American flag flying over this battlefield. There was no recognition of the American blood that was shed here. Every veteran here, stand up. Please stand up and be recognized. All right? Thank you. Thank you for your service. Your lineage goes all the way back to those men that are buried today in that grave 241 years ago. Every person who puts on a uniform never knows when he'll come back covered in an American flag. That risk is always there. You come back and you bring the scars with you. And you live with that. And you live with your wounds. Many of them are psychological. And we can't forget what happened. For you to come out today shows that you care. You're willing to sacrifice part of your weekend, your valuable weekend, to spend time here in memory and remember what happened here. And to remember all who wore the uniform. To get back to my story, when we rode our motorcycles and saw that this place was forgotten, we formed a group, the Friends of the Buford Massacre Battlefield. And together with so many people here, a lot of the people wearing our shirts out here now, our hats, whatever, support, you know, with their efforts and their work and their devotion and their love for what happened here. So we can never forget what happened here. Pass it on to your children. I'm so glad to see so many children here today, okay? So they can learn our history. If we forget our history, we are doomed to repeat it. That is so true today. So again, I want to thank you on this beautiful day. At the end of this ceremony, there's refreshments, cookies, and there's going to be another Memorial Day ceremony immediately following. And give us 15 minutes to move everything. But we'll have another ceremony just for Memorial Day over by the Massacre wall. So please stay around, move your chairs up, and I think it's going to be another great ceremony. Thank you so much. Thank you, Greg, for everything your group has done to help here at the battlefield. We'll drop the stage.
Thank you, Ken. And thank all your members for all the work that they've done here. Before we move on to the next section of our program, I want to state that I continue trying to do research here at this site, and I've followed George Washington's trail through South Carolina in his southern tour. And he came, if not here, so very close to a place called Graves Tavern. And I've overlaid maps and everything else, and I have to believe, even though it's not in his journal, I have to believe that he stopped here. I want to take this opportunity. We have National Society rules where we can only recognize 5 of these patriots each year to mark their graves. And so now we're going to spend just a moment or two recognizing those next 5. We did 5 2 years ago, 5 last year, and this is the next series. The first, Richard Bennett. The second, Walter Billingsley. The third, Sergeant Michael Booth. The fourth, Joseph Booney. And the last, Lieutenant John Bowen. Take a moment of silence. And now for those who are presenting wreaths, if you will begin to line up over here. And we'll take just a moment's time to set up the wreaths. And for those of you who are doing the wreaths, if you have your programs, you know what order, you're called in. Dan? Dan? Do you want to set us over here? It's okay if you don't. On behalf of the National Society Sons of the American Revolution Foundation, Dr. Sam Powell. On behalf of the South Carolina Society, Sons of the American Revolution, President David Smith. On behalf of the Virginia Society, Sons of the American Revolution, President Jeff Thomas. On behalf of the International Society of the National Society, Sons of the American Revolution, compatriot Brooks Lyles. On behalf of the South Carolina Society, Sons of the American Revolution Ladies Auxiliary, Dr. Barbara Owenesian. On behalf of the National Society, Children of the American Revolution, Second Vice President Gabe Bobo. On behalf of the South Carolina Society, Children of the American Revolution, Jay Bobo, President. And there's going to be a replacement for the General Francis Marion chapter. Sir, if you'll come forward. President David Smith, do you want to act on behalf of the James Williams chapter? Got it. On behalf of the General James Williams chapter, South Carolina Society, SAR, compatriot David Smith. On behalf of the Major Robert Crawford Chapter, South Carolina Society, SAR, compatriot Gabe Bobo. On behalf of the Culpeper Minuteman Chapter, compatriot Tom Hamill. This is Virginia Society. And I'm proud to say that I'm a dual member of that Culpeper Minutemen chapter in Virginia. On behalf of the Colonel George Waller chapter, Virginia Society, SAR, compatriot Jared Marlowe. On behalf of the Dan River chapter, compatriot Mike Gessinger, past president, and compatriot Gary Lee Hall, president. Okay. On behalf of the Catawba Valley chapter, compatriot Reed. I can't catch that first name. On behalf of the Elizabeth Hutchinson Jackson Chapter, South Carolina Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, Miss Gina Bobo, Regent. On behalf of the Granby Chapter, South Carolina Society, DAR, Miss Miriam Lovett. On behalf of the Nathaniel Green Chapter, South Carolina, excuse me, South Carolina Society, DAR, Sherilyn Woodruff. Sherilyn, are you going to? There you go. Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of the Farquhar Courthouse Chapter, Virginia Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, Lieutenant Colonel Kat Schwetke, Regent. On behalf of the Lanes Mill Chapter, Virginia Society, DAR, Miss Anita Bonner, Regent. On behalf of the Battle of Alamance Chapter, Virginia Society, DAR, Miss Janie Brooks. Dan, we will recognize you where you are. Thank you. On behalf of the Colonel Thomas Taylor Society, South Carolina Society, Children of the American Revolution, Charles Cole. On behalf of the Martha Bratton Society, South Carolina Society, CAR, Gray Bobo, First Vice President. On behalf of the Colonel James Williams Society, South Carolina CAR chapters, Joseph Smith. On behalf of the Virginia Society, Children of the American Revolution chapters, Ashby's Gap Society, Aaron Hamill. On behalf of the Friends of Buford's Massacre Battlefield, Greg Sleeger. On behalf of the Fairfax Resolves Chapter, Virginia Society, Sons of the American Revolution, compatriot Ken Bonner. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And now, compatriot Jeff Thomas, President of the Virginia Society, SAR, will present Virginia soil on the grave. There's a door on the side. Is Bob Bertolini close by?
That's the guy. He's in the VFW. He's back here.
Bertolini.
Will everyone please stand for the firing of the musket salute and taps?
guard, stand shut.
Please remain standing for the retiring of the colors.
Color guard, forward, march. Colors. Right, face. Forward, march.
May the Lord bless you and keep you while we're apart. Amen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.